I am truly delighted, and I first want to start by congratulating the entire BW team for pulling this together. There can't be a better time to discuss AI. What you have amongst us today are some of the best minds and leaders who are making things happen for India. So, Dr. Vishnu, thank you for that extremely engaging presentation. We're very excited about Hanuman, and many congratulations from all of us. Sandeep spoke about the broader picture. What we're going to do today in the next 15 minutes or so is talk about why AI truly matters, why does it matter to each of us, how is it that we're engaging, and what is it that all of us can do to make sure that this is not just a conversation within rooms, and people who are going to be catalysts to make this happen are instrumental. They're sitting in this room, and each of us I see as change makers, as enablers who can truly get us our place under the sun when it comes to AI and India. So when Sumati was introducing me, and by the way, you're absolutely outstanding and terrific. Thank you for keeping us all engaged. I represent a company that is one of India's first unicorns, and we became a unicorn back in 2011. We're now in 26 countries. It's just when you talk about small language models or large language models and the hype around AI, this is a testimony to what is it that's possible. It is a conversation about hope. It is a conversation about the potential that India holds. So it's not about innovation happening in the West, and then we're trying to look at diffusion models where India then starts adopting. We're talking about AI, and we're talking about AI in a post-COVID world where technologies almost made this a level playing field. So here is the opportunity where, unlike, let's say, a 3G or 4G, India will not be playing catch up. So what's happened now, this is a bit about my journey, which is why the conversation across academia, technology, the fact that we've been negotiating not just how India runs its internet, but how the world looks at internet governance processes. So before we get into AI, it's very important to understand if you're not on the table, you will be on the menu. The fact that conversations so far were happening in distant places like Vilnius, in Baku, in Geneva, they were deciding what internet models are going to look like. So AI is not something that's new. When the timeline is very, very clear, we'll come to this. But the conversation that we need to have is around the fact that what is it that really changed? So first, the hype is genuine. And why is it genuine? Because it's sort of become democratic to use. So my mother sitting in Lucknow can now look at, hey, what plant is this? What is the season that I need to look at? What is the kind of cropping, soil conditions are required? Anybody can now use large language models easily. So this made technology accessible. The conversation that we need to have is, what is the kind of generative AI and what is the kind of AI as a whole that our country can harness? How is it that it links up to the larger conversation around a Viksit Bharat, around our Vision 2047? What is it that each of the stakeholders need to do so that we're able to unlock, we're able to harness the potential of AI? So it's no longer about why AI or when AI, it is about how AI. It's a natural choice where we'll get to it, right? So if I go back, the key conversation here when you're looking at what is essential, and Sandeep talked about the trust index, and he's right when he says India leading the adoption. So 57% of companies, this is actually an IBM study, 57% of companies in India have already explored, they've already adopted. So when it comes to trust, we're trusting of technology. We're no longer scared. We're no longer resisting change. And this is the opportunity that we're talking about. So, and these are very, very hard numbers. When we're talking about potential in the global market, we're at roughly about $1,811 billion. When you're looking at the India AI market alone, you're looking at numbers upwards of 17 billion. When you're looking at addition to the global economy, it's 15.7 trillion. These are not small numbers. When you're looking at the combined contribution to the world's GDP, this is going to be larger than both India and China combined. So which is why it's incumbent that not only do we play catch up, we start adopting AI organically. And housewives and homemakers and cooks in India do that really well. When you're preparing gravy and you need to add curd or you need to add things which are tangy and sour to make the gravy whole and not disintegrate, they know exactly when the infusion needs to happen. So one of the things that we need to really look at is what is it that you need to do where your organization can truly benefit, and not just look after this like an arms race that everybody's talking about AI. So no matter which industry, which sector I'm in, I need to start looking at AI. That's not the conversation that we need to have. And therefore, you've got specialists. Therefore, you've got people who will analyze and get you the right balance between when to infuse technology and how do I make it work for my business and my sector. So it's not going to be uniform for everyone. It's not going to happen at the same time. But when it comes to deployment, this is the kind of readiness index that companies and sectors are showing in India. So unlike other technology, where there was a lot of fear mongering and people talked about, this happens in every phase. When it comes to automation, it will happen. But the big question, or let's say the proverbial elephant in the room is, am I going to lose jobs? No, jobs are going to get transformed. And how we engage with technology will help you upskill. So what does India have working for it? We've got the highest potential number of engineers. We've got content, we've got culture, we've got creativity. We've got some of the most talented bunch of people sitting within our engineering institutions. But why is it that an Infosys or a TCS needs to create a bridge program for them? That's because of the readiness or the skill sets that we're imparting. So this is where just bridging these programs, and that's what WEF is saying, that your top skills are critical thinking. Your top skills are your ability to analyze, use cognitive skill sets, and on an average, they're saying it'll take about 3 to 5 months to upskill your entire workforce if you start now. So this is easy, this is doable, and it gives you so much in terms of an incredible incremental advantage. Now, one of the biggest questions that we're discussing today, and I'll always wear my policy hat when I look at it, is how do I build an AI that works for India? How do I build, and at the heart of all digital conversations is trust. So we believe in our world that sunlight is the best disinfectant. So how is the data being collected? Where is the data being stored? Who has access to the data? What is the quality of that data set? For which purpose will it be utilized? For how long will it be utilized? And will there be transparency? And will there be accountability? These are the kind of models, these are the kind of interventions that make your model or your system or your offering trustworthy. As we speak today, not very far from here, barely 5 to 7 kilometers, there is a robust discussion that's going on in the Ministry of Consumer Affairs where they're talking about AI greenwashing. So a lot of companies today are talking about AI being included in their products when it is not really AI, when it is just large amount of data analysis. So it's a bit like nutraceuticals. This has got almonds, so it'll make your brain sharper, right? What is the quantity of turmeric or what is the quantity of curcumin in that turmeric? Is it really going to help with my inflammatory issues? This is the level of detail that Government of India is today getting into, the same as their guidelines on environmental greenwashing. So on one hand, this room needs to grapple with the problem that how do I get onto the AI bandwagon? The second is how do I make sure that I use principles which are going to be true, which are actually going to be utilizing artificial intelligence, and that makes my product better, right? Not just making sure that I've got this label and I say, hey, we're AI enabled. So why is AI essential? our attempt is not to look at growth. Our attempt is not to look at defining our progress just in terms of numbers. So when we looked at the comparison between the state gross domestic product, because of the number of people in my home state, which is Uttar Pradesh, we stood at per capita GDP at about 0.83, which is less than a lakh per person. So when I'm looking at social inequalities, or when I'm looking at growing productivity per hectare, which is now small farmers, landless laborers, or small enterprises, the next growth is going to come from the next 100 Indian companies becoming champions for India. And this is where AI can really play a key role. So when it comes to use cases, when it comes to social economic disparities, when it comes to ensuring interventions in the fundamentals. So what is expected of a democracy? That you'll have great law and order, you'll have fantastic infrastructure, you will have business do business. And if we can get that, which is at the basic state, and healthcare will be affordable. So those are the kind of interventions that the government is trying to make today. And with Dr. Vishnu, you heard the fantastic example of telemedicine and how large data sets of predictable patterns of illness can become preventive early warning signs. So CoWIN, the app, benefited from large amounts of data, which we voluntarily shared. So if everybody understands the value of data today, right, and people start talking about data being the new oil, I think data is not oil. Data is even more precious, and it is more different than oil. Oil can be put in measurable barrels. Data will manifest and change itself. The amount of data that you put together and the quality and richness of data that you give to AI and large language models can give you very, very different and incremental inputs into your businesses. So we talked about trust. India ranks as the highest country where we trust in AI and we trust in technology. Of course, every survey would have limitations, but it means that as a country, we're ready for technology. Technology is not a bad word anymore. Technology is, we're okay in terms of perception, in terms of mindset. It's now cool to be part of embracing technology. So what is it that AI can do? And this is where we need to be very, very careful. We need to be realistic. So first, look at limitations. When it comes to creativity, there is no comparison to the infinite possibilities and the beauty of the human mind. So on your right, you'll still see the limitations of generative AI or large language models. At this point, I'll take a step back and basically look at AI like a large Excel sheet, which has a lot of columns. It has a lot of data. This is not just text. It is also numbers. It is also videos. It is also images. Now, if you had like a supercomputer, which could pull in all this data together, and instead of, when you look at a popular search engine, it gives you links, then you still need to go back and do your homework. Here is somebody who's doing the basic work for you. But when you look at even ChatGPT, it will very transparently tell you that, hey, I don't have an opinion. I can tell you what the facts are. So if you were creating a website and it needed to have a green box against the picture of the promoter of your company, this coding would take you probably 3 days and thousands of lines of code. So see ChatGPT as something that takes you from point A to point B, but much faster. So any task that requires automation, any task that requires manual labor, any task that requires personalization, large sets of image recognition, speech recognition, so many positive use cases. And, we only get attention for negative things. So when a very popular actor's video went viral, and you all saw that happen on Twitter, then there were national debates on deepfake and videos that are being created. We're also in the election season, so you'll see a lot of videos where politicians will come and say, hey, that was not me, right? So the big question again comes back to trust. How do I trust technology? At the heart of AI is also trust. And there again, the same question. I spent a lot of time first deducting and deducing for the lovely anchors on television in prime time that AI is not the same thing as obscenity. It's again differentiating technology from the use to which it is being put through. So even to counter deepfakes, which is being seen as a big criticism, you will need very smart, developed AI models that will continue to work and tell you, hey, this is fake, this has been made, because only AI can go after AI. So the big ask today is to look at transparency, look at what is it that I can do which makes my business smarter, my life easier as a key decision maker, as a CEO, as a manager, as a mid-career professional. How do I embrace AI and start doing my bit so that India goes faster and higher? So we understand that the use cases in the mid-section will still need either AI to get better, more refined, or it'll need at least 2 or 3 more tools that will help AI work for me much, much better so that results are more reliable, right? So this is why we believe AI is for everybody. You can use at this day, and as we speak today, we're roughly about 7 billion people. We already have over 8.5 billion chatbots. So when you enter a bank virtually, they're observing every single behavior as a consumer. Which products did you stop at? Are you looking at investment? What is the time of the month? Where is it that your choices will lie? So one of the biggest use of AI today is in marketing and understanding consumer behavior, is in profiling you as a user. And how do I make sure that I give you convenience, I give you back time, and I give you products that are meant tailor-made for you, right? So you will always have rogue actors. You will always have people who will sell you more than what you need. They will give you what you may want, but may not necessarily need. So that's where marketing models are getting smarter. They're getting more refined. Now, this is a very simple use case of AI. Right? The famous painting that we all look at. So if you go to DALL-E, which is free to use, has limited tokens, and you wanted to figure out what would be the background behind a Mona Lisa painting, right? That's what AI can do. It can tell you what the landscape of the time would have looked like. If I wanted to extend this landscape, this is what I really get to see, that this is what the topography of the painting, this is what it would have been. Many, many more use cases, lends itself to a lot of imagination. This is Midjourney. If I put in characteristics of every hero or every character from the Mahabharata, this is the rendition that it would give me. So a Hollywood producer who was going to invest billions of dollars in building a huge studio has just decided to change his decision, and he's saying that Midjourney and a lot of other video and image generation softwares can do that job for me better. I don't need to make that investment, which means you're getting professional, high quality images and videos, which is saving you a lot of money, which is much, much faster, and it's giving you higher yields on your returns. Right? So this is a video, very, very famous video that Sam Altman himself put out. And here the prompt was very simple. Sora, you just need to give in a command. It said, animals of the sea competing in an Olympic race. And in about 30 seconds, you got a video for a minute, which had fantastic SFX. You did not need an editor. You did not need a video image generator, right? And it's fantastic. It's incredible in terms of what it can do. So there are a lot of analysis. If you look at Sora's video, you'll see that there are problems with 8 or 10 fingers in a hand. They're saying they're working on refining the model still, but it's going to get better. So that's the potential. Sandeep also talked about agriculture. Again, a very UP reference. We're still primarily agrarian. When is it going to rain? So today rain is predicted, and very heavy rain is predicted. In Andhra, the price of lemons went up because all the flowers fell off because it was extremely hot when the season wasn't right, and lemons couldn't get formed. In Shimla, the temperatures have gone up so much that farmers have had to shift their orchids for apples upwards. So predicting large sets of data, looking at temperature, which I cannot do, which you cannot do, is the utilization that public-private partnerships are helping states which are primarily dependent upon agrarian revenues for their sustenance. So predictive analysis, yield forecasting, which can help governments determine prices for those commodities, predict inflation, predict budgetary planning. These are huge choices that your states and your governments are making based on AI. Again, lot of use cases in irrigation management. Bengaluru, which is where a lot of my tech friends come from, which is where 3,000 of our engineers live. Thank you. That's where there's a lot of water scarcity right now. So drip irrigation, smarter choices, utilizing water, making sure you're predicting traffic better. Kerala's just had its first AI teacher. Our student-teacher ratios can definitely do with a lot more intervention. So schools which are very, very far off, which are in dangerous territories, which have limited number of children, they can do with positive AI use cases. Before I close, the last thought that I wanted to leave you with was the ABCD of AI and the choice-based systems. So a lot of us have been talking about AI, which may have bias. A lot of us have been talking about models which are coming out of the West. So why is there a need to make sure that all of us are able to pull together models which are more local, which are more sustainable? This is the election season, and a lot of our friends and people who we know are getting tickets. So one of my most favorite examples now, which the Secretary Consumer Affairs shared, that was in the US, if you looked at congratulating someone for getting a ticket, it would mean that you've done a traffic violation. Then that is why you got a ticket. Here, a ticket means this is your chance to serve your country and your people. So one, language connotations, cultural biases, ethical notations, which is why you need smaller models. And that's why when we did it with Param and we were able to integrate compute powers across campuses, models like Hanuman, the experiments that we're doing at InMobi and Glance, where your lock screen, which is your phone, which does not even need to be unlocked, becomes your first port of call for consuming content, technology, which is personalized, is something that's going to work for India. So the ABCD of choice, which is adoption, which is balance, which is choice, and which is development, which is localized. That's the framework that we gave, which is going to create Gen AI models that work towards a Viksit Bharat and AI that starts working for India instead of a catch-up that we're trying to play. Thank you once again for giving me time and for being a fantastic audience and so much energy and participation. And again, many, many congratulations to Anurag and the entire BW team for putting this together. Thank you.